Every action you take in FreeCAD is recorded in the Python console. Open that up to see what is going on under the hood. Let's create a new sketch and copy the output from the Python console into our text editor. You might find using a text editor is easier to use since it has features like autocomplete and other tools to make text editing a breeze, such as syntax highlighting and multi-select. Code comments start with a hash and don't execute in the console. Going back to our sketch, let's create a circle. The command to create a circle contains the x, y, and z coordinates and the circle radius. Let's create another circle using the Python command with a 4mm radius whose center is at 10 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. In Python, spacing matters. The space at the beginning of the command is throwing an error. Delete the space to successfully create a circle with code. Create another circle whose xy coordinates are 0 and 10. Close the sketch and record those commands in your text editor. Now that we know how to create a circle with Python and FreeCAD, let's programmatically increment x and y to get a 10 by 10 grid of 4mm circles spaced 10 millimeters apart on center. We will do this using while loops and then inserting the circle command when appropriate. Be sure to increment the variables or you will create an infinite loop and FreeCAD will hang. Let's run this in the console and see what we get. We see x incrementing as expected, but are creating no circles while we test our code. Next, let's create another while loop to increment y for each time we increment x. For this reason, we'll put the while loop for y inside of the while loop for x. When concatenating strings with Python, it is necessary to change the variable type of the integers to strings. Let's try this out in our console to make sure that we have each of the xy coordinates for our grid. You'll notice FreeCAD is hanging since we didn't increment the y variable. Increment the y variable in the code and restart FreeCAD. After incrementing the y variable, we see that the code block is executing and giving all of the xy coordinates for a 10 by 10 grid. Let's insert the command to create a circle instead of printing output to the console, replacing the x, y, and radius constraints. Delete our manual sketch and execute the code. We now have a 10 by 10 grid of 4mm circles, 10 millimeters on center.